So we decided this year to do this session prior to Maths Week London so that we could actually give people some ideas of what they might choose to do during next week. So Maths Week London does start from Monday, and there's lots of amazing ideas already up on the website and lots of fantastic activities that are going to be taking place. So I'll just quickly introduce myself. My name is Sarah Slattery. I currently work for Islington as a maths consultant across primary, and I've been teaching across Key Stage 2 for the past 10 years. And I'm going to be moving into the wonderful world of reception next year, which is very exciting. So our lineup for this afternoon, we're going to start with a little brief maths game to get us in the mood. And then we've got Lucy from Maths on Toast. Then we'll have Branka, who's going to be sharing something about the Young Innovator Award. Then we've got Natasha from Leo Academies, who's going to talk us through the fantastic activities that she's developed ready for next week. And then we have got John, who's going to be talking about problems and how to choose the right operation. And then we will have Anne, who's talking about something that I'm very interested in, thinking about mixed attainment teaching in primary mathematics. And then finally, we will have Sarah Ann from Smash Maths, thinking about that idea of making learning stick. And I know this is something that lots of schools are talking about at the moment when I go into them. So just to let you know, next week, we are lucky enough to be able to have a face-to-face event for the first time. I think it's been 3 years now that we've been doing this on Zoom. I remember 3 years ago doing a face-to-face event at King's Cross Academy, and it was so nice to be able to meet with colleagues, have a little bit of a drink and a nibble afterwards as well. And this is actually going to be taking place at the new London City Hall as well. So it'll be a fantastic chance to come and see that new venue. We have already got Bobby Seagull confirmed and the poet Harry Baker as well. So there'll be a few different speakers and a chance to collaborate with colleagues. I put the link up to the Eventbrite, and I know that Kirsty also shared that in the email with you earlier this week. Also, just to highlight for next week, there is going to be a prize giveaway where you can win over £1,000 in prizes. We've got Marty the Robot, art curriculum, 6 months access, 2 Sumdog 12-month subscriptions, a year of ATM membership and their top 5 books, which I absolutely adore personally, and the Numbrella starter pack. So there's all the information on the website if you want to know, and on Twitter as well. So I was thinking this afternoon of a few different activities of how we could start to have a little maths game. And I was actually working with my local maths hubs this morning, who shared these activities that they found out about recently about estimation. And I thought, do you know what? I'm going to have to magpie this because it was really interesting, something I've not saw before. So this actually comes from a guy called Steve in America who's developed them. And there's activities that go across all levels, and it's all about the idea of estimation. So I thought we could try one together that's called Roadblock. So in these activities, they encourage the use of number squares, and there's different number squares as well. So they might go up to 100. Some of them might be flexible, starting at different numbers. So if I was to do this in class with my pupils, I'd have them maybe with different coloured pens and pencils and the 100 squares in front of them. On each of these activities, he gives different notes about what he would do with the kids. So he says on his animations, he blocks it out, but he says for the different rules, you might start by crossing and then circling and then starring as you develop throughout the cues. So we've got our picture in front of us. We've got a lovely car, but sadly it has been blocked by all the blocks that have fell over into the road. So I'm just going to give you a minute to have a look at the picture and estimate how many blocks you think are blocking the car. Try and make sure I'm definitely not blocking the picture as well. So you can pop your estimations in the chat if you want to, or keep it in your head, it's up to you. So now we're going to go through a small set of clues to help you with your estimation. If I was doing this with children in class, at each stage I'd be asking them, can they explain why they chose that or why they've adapted their estimation? Right, clue number 1. So the answer is less than 100. So some of you might be thinking, oh, my estimation's already wrong. What am I going to do? Right, clue number 2. And this just shows you that you could use a 100 grid for this problem because it's less than 100. So the vehicle is carrying a 3, and the answer is also a multiple of 3. So if I was doing this with my children, I might say, can you circle all your multiples of 3 on your 100 grid? So have a think about your estimation. Are you going to have to change it? Is your answer a multiple of 3? Right, clue number 3. And it's just showing on the animations how that might be shown to the children. So the answer is also an odd number. Clue number 4. Neither of the digits in the answer is a 5 or a 9. See a few people already looking a bit like disappointed, going, oh, I thought I was going to have it. And then clue number 5. The answer does not include the digit 1. And at this point, I might show the numbers to the children on the screen. I might be asking them, are there any of these numbers that we know it definitely can't be? So even just from looking at the picture, the children will be like, well, of course it can't be 3 because I can see more than 3. And it's getting them to use their reasoning and explain what they can see. After seeing these clues, it's a really good time to get them to explain their thinking, explain their reasoning to their partners and then to the rest of the class. Right, I can see that you're all super excited to find out which of these is the answer and if you got it right this afternoon. So the grand reveal. Feel free to give a thumbs up if you got it or a celebration on your Zoom face. The answer is 87 blocks. And I've got to say, when I went through this one, I didn't have 87 as my estimation. These activities are great as well. And sometimes you might actually physically create them in the classroom as well. But it's a really great way of the children being able to estimate. And we were talking this morning about how in year 5, it's one of the explicit national curriculum objectives and all the different ways you can expose them to this idea of estimation. So I hope everyone has now got their Super Maths brains switched on, ready for this afternoon's event. I'm going to stop my screen share in a moment and I'm going to invite Lucy from Maths on Toast to the floor. If anyone needs to share their screens this afternoon, you should already have the ability to do that. Lucy, when you're ready.
Hi everyone. So rather than, I'm going to show you a few kind of different sets of activities that we have. So I'm from Maths on Toast, the family maths charity. Now, what people will say to us is, what is family maths? So our mission is to give families and communities playful, hands-on, creative experiences of maths, because we want everyone to enjoy and feel positive about maths. Now, one of the things that we really find, and you will know this, is that parental engagement is key. So the outline of my thing was getting parental engagement with hands-on creative maths. And the reason that we exist and that we find is so important is that you will all know people's attitudes towards maths are often very rigid. People often love it or loathe it, and we do find that many loathe it. Might not be quite that extreme, but they dislike it and they may feel very uncomfortable about it. And so getting parents engaged in learning, we all know how important that is, but particularly in maths, it may be something that even the parents who like maths or love maths, they're not quite sure how to get involved with playful maths learning, because how do you play with maths? Because so many of us and the older generations have had a very certain experience of learning maths, and that often is rigid. And then, of course, schools are pushed and pulled. Yes, we've got the maths mastery approach, which is what the maths hubs are leading on with the NCETM, with all their CPD and their resources, and all the maths leads in primaries. Sorry, if there are any secondary people here, we specifically aim for primary, but many of our activities are fun at whatever age you are, because they are for families to do, so older teens enjoy them as well. So you've got the maths mastery approach, but then of course in primaries you've got that pull with the government year 4 times tables test, and all of the primary curriculum has moved down in age of children having to do things by a certain age. It's removed that flexibility and that open-ended, and it's harder and harder for schools to take that maths mastery open-ended creative approach. There's a very interesting article by Debbie Morgan, primary lead from the NCETM, who leads the maths hubs, this month in their newsletter, which is about differentiation in primary classrooms, and actually, really, should we get rid of it and how to work without differentiation. And so our approach is to try and have these open-ended creative hands-on, very much leads in, you were talking about estimation, we're looking at the wider skills of maths that you will bring in to all of your maths learning. And you said someone later was talking about making learning stick. And all of the research, evidence and maths pedagogy shows that the more hands-on it can be, concrete and visual, before you get to that abstract and allowing children to go backwards and forwards, fade in and out, the stronger the child's maths mastery and their core understanding of maths will be. So one of the things we absolutely aim to do is have this whole set of creative, open-ended, playful maths resources. We create resources, we create some products, we create programs. We work with families and communities, and we work with schools because that's where the families are, and to reach the children. What has happened with COVID is that we found we were putting more and more and more of our resources online. And so there is a whole host of Maths on Toast resources that teachers can take at any time, that you might particularly want to use them in Maths Week. And the key thing is, of course you can use them in class, but we really would engage that these are suitable to try and engage parents. So you could run an event in school where you're doing some of these activities and ones of your own, and you're inviting the parents in to join in an open afternoon. You are printing out the resources so that they don't have to look at everything on screen, and sending them home so that you say to the kids, perhaps you do it in class, but then they take it home and they've got to do it with their older siblings and their parents and their grandparents. So everybody can be involved in maths, because we're trying to take maths out of the silo of it's just a school thing, which is again that very rigid definition, because we all know maths is everywhere and it is for everyone, even for people who struggled with maths at school, and those are often the parents who aren't confident. And so our whole approach is around giving confidence. I'm going to quickly share screen. Okie dokie. Oh, sorry, I'm being slow. There we go. So that's just our home page. You will find in our activities and resources Okay, my internet connection is being very slow. In activities and resources, there's a whole host of things that you can take, as I mentioned, but I want to highlight our join-in projects and galleries. These have been developed as a whole little project, and then you submit the creations that you come with. They're often very arts-based and creative-based. Our current Summer 22 is Infinity Tiles. I will try and click on it. Oh yes, we're getting there. Okay, so the whole point is families can do it at home, schools can do it in school time, and we do have a school session on Wednesday at 9:30. If you would like to sign up to it, it will be an online session. We do these in every Maths Week. We'll do one in Maths Week England, we do one in Maths Week Scotland, and we will do more if there's a demand for them. Any schools that take part, we would like to say, yes, do it in school, but remember, send it home or invite families in to do it at another time. Here is a picture, it's our gallery, and I'm afraid it's loading slowly, but these are some of the examples of the Infinity Tiles that we've so far done in libraries. In some schools where we run coffee mornings, which offer the parents and the children, so please do look online because we can offer coffee mornings to schools if we have the funding. And the last thing I would like to speak about is we do have, this is not something for Maths Week next week, we do have something that we developed with South East London Maths Hubs called the Festival of Triangles, which is a kit to run a whole week of triangular activities with a parent celebration at the end. And so our focus is always to try and involve the parents. Yes, we have things like the kit that you can, you would have to buy in. We sometimes have funding pots to offer those to schools. It's wherever we can get funding. But these join-ins, there's 3 a year. You can do them whenever you want. The summer one is always around Maths Week London. Join in the session if you want next week. But please also do look at our activities and resources page and send anything you want home. Do it in school or invite the parents in. I don't know if anyone has any questions or if you're doing questions later, but that's me. And it's now loaded, hasn't it? So you can see it all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lucy. I actually think the slow reveal of the patterns was quite mathematical as well. It's quite magical the way it was doing it, the pace it went at. That was really lovely to see. I know last year I did the tangrams with my class as well, who absolutely
you did.
It. Yeah, they absolutely loved it. We've definitely done similar activities as part of our parents' mornings. I know quite a few schools this year are hoping to get parents in as part of their Maths Week London as well. So I really hope some of these activities will be able to be shared for those.
Fantastic. And we've tried to make it that it's, as I said, for the join-ins particularly, that everything is there you need. All the resources, all the stuff to take, all the stuff you can take home, etc. So it's like a complete little package. Even if you don't attend the online session, it's all there. Good to hear that you did the tangrams, and yes, I hope people will enjoy this.
Thank you so much again, Lucy. Lots of ideas there to share. So up next, we are going to have Branka, who's going to share something about a project that one of her students has done. This is something that I'm very interested to find out about, Branka. Thank you very much.
Okay. I'm from Bosnia and Herzegovina, one elementary school where I have a very talented student who made one interesting result. Can I ask you to let me read or to let me to log, please? Because I connected from laptop and phone. Okay,
You should be able to share now if you're connected on both of those devices, Franca.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I will share screen. Okay. I hope you will see. The number of lines from 8 points where we have exactly 4 places in plane, that 3 points are the same line. Okay? The problem is, in the plane is given 8 points where we have exactly 4 places in plane with 3 points at the same line. What is the number of lines determined with these points? Okay? From the point A, we can determine 5 lines. We can have AG, AF, AE, AD, and AF. From the point B, we can determine 3 lines. I apologize. This is a big mistake. Here we need to have D. I apologize, really. From the point B, we can determine 5 lines. That can be BH, BG, BF, BD, and that's it. We are not repeating the lines. From the point C, we can determine 4 lines. CH, also we can have CG, CF, and CE. From the point D, we can have DH and DF. From the point E, we can EH and EG. And from point F, we can determine the 1, F and G. The number of the lines determined with points organized in described geometrical situation is 20. And the number of diagonals of regular 8-angle is also 20. This equality is not casual. Equality of the mentioned calculating results is consequence of the fact that expression on the left side is equal to the number of 2 element subsets of the set with cardinality 8, and that number is 28. Where we exclude 4.2 is equal to 8 repeating of the lines formed from the 4 geometrical places with 3 points at the same line, and we get result 28 minus 8 is equal to 20, until the expression at the right side is equal to the n multiply n minus 3 divided with 2, where n is equal to 8. Last length diagonal, I will explain. If we connect all these, and if we have, for example, that place ABC points, for example, and with these 3 points are determined exactly 3 lines. That's AB, BC, and AC. One of them we can say AC, for example, is this diagonal, and AB and BC we can consider like these neighbor sides of this 8 angle. This is equality. So we can say less length diagonal of the n angle is equivalent in our comparing to one of the 3 lines we get from the 3 collinear points, which is included in counting until the sides of the n angle neighborhood to that diagonal and neighborhood to each other are equivalent to the rest 2 lines we excluded exactly 4 times because we have 4 places in the plane with 3 collinear points. Okay.
Thank you very much, Branka. And this was work from one of your students from the award as well, wasn't it? Do you want to tell us how the process works at all?
Process. Well, this student got 3rd prize on city competition, and we was preparing for regional competition, and we was solving some math problems from the Society of Mathematics of Serbia. We found on their site some problems, and one of that exercise, simple exercises, was exactly this problem. And my student created idea how to solve and to find the number of lines we can find with that organization of points. And she created that idea. So we was calculating with different formulas, and casually we got very interesting result comparing some formulas. So we was very surprised when we get equality. So we were investigating how is that possible. So we was considering that different positions of the points, and we got equality in that neighbor sides of the 8 angle and diagonal, less diagonal, and other didn't be problem because we was having the points, they are not collinear. Only was problem that 4 cases when we was having 3 collinear points. I hope I explained. If you have some questions, I will answer.
Thank you so much for sharing, and how amazing that we've managed to get Maths Week London spreading internationally this year as well, the power of Zoom. Thank you so much. If anyone has any questions for any of our speakers, please feel free to pop them in the chat and we can ask them throughout the session. Thank you, Branka. Right,
thank you so much.
Up next, we are going to have the lovely Natasha, who always produces such fabulous ideas for Maths Week London. And I have to say, this year has really inspired me with her Twitter page and what she does with her young children at home as well. I've been sharing them with my niece and nephew. They definitely love very similar maths activities. I know last year we loved your activities at my school based around the storybooks, and I can't wait to see what you produce for this year. When you're ready, Natasha.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, I'm always a keen supporter of Maths Week London. So just to explain who I am the Maths Director of Leo Academy Trust. I've always been inspired into everything mathematical. I then had my own children, and they're like my maths guinea pigs at home, essentially, poor them. And I try out all of my ideas on the unwitting victims that are in my home. And I get a lot of my early years ideas from them as well. So it's really made me a much more well-rounded maths practitioner. One of my little ones is currently running around, so hopefully you'll hear him. And if you do, it'll be something mathematical that he suddenly spouts out. I'm going to share my screen because what I wanted to do today was just show you what my plans are for how to lead Maths Week London across a whole multi-academy trust. Now, I have 7 schools in my multi-academy trust. There's about 3,800 children, all the way from nursery to year 6. So it's a lot of children, it's a lot of staff. So with that, I thought, how do I inspire, love of maths learning and enjoyment of maths, a real celebration of it, but across so many different sites with so many different people, so many different age ranges. It's quite tricky. And I've had a go at it for a couple of years. And this is, I think, the third year now I've created some sort of resources to go with Maths Week London that I've shared both within my Multi-Academy Trust, but also just given to other teachers to sort of have a go at within their own schools to sort of get some ideas and inspiration from. So I'm going to do that really cringy thing and say, can you see my screen? Okay, I haven't heard anything to the contrary, so hopefully you all can. I have put together this PDF menu of activities to be used across my trust, but also anyone else is welcome to use them. I'm happy to share the link to this. It's also on the website as well. I thought we're going to have Maths Week London, but themed around art this year. I'm really listening to the educational climate in that, it's all about cross-curricular. We recently had an Ofsted visit and maths wasn't even mentioned at all, much to my, upset. But I thought, okay, let's embrace that. Let's put maths with other areas of the curriculum. And last year we had a real focus on reading books, and each year group read a different reading story to do with maths. And this year I thought, let's do mathematical art. So each activity in each year group is going to be something focused on mathematical arts. And the first thing was, how about if I asked a question to all the children in the whole of the Multi-Academy Trust, the same question. And the question I came up with was, how many triangles? Obviously, different images for different year groups. And hopefully, or probably, you might recognize some of these images. So we've got, in early years, we've got this fish image, which I created, which is just a really simple, set of triangles that I put together. And then I made the bit of difficulty with the red triangle, slightly overlapping the orange triangle. This cat image, which I'm sure we've all seen before, well used in sort of shape lessons, but how many triangles in this cat? And then going higher up, we've got this image, which you might have seen before. How many triangles in this image? And obviously there's a lot more choices and a lot more options. But I thought it's just such a nice way that everyone is actually working towards the same goal. Everyone's working towards the same sort of overall question. It's just structured slightly differently for the different age ranges. And it's so easy for teachers to do. I've sent PDFs out that they can print to sort of annotate. They could show it on a Jamboard, so children annotate them on their Chromebooks. They could just have it on the screen at the front of the class. It's just any way of engaging with this all together as a Multi-Academy Trust throughout all of the year groups, which I thought would be really powerful and a nice way of collectively doing something all together, which is quite tricky to do with such a vast age range and across so many different sites. So that was the first thing. The second thing, and it's so great to hear from Maths on Toast, because I have actually used some of the activities from Maths on Toast, you will be pleased to see, and I do really rate them as well. Each school phase is going to have a mathematical art activity to create. So in nursery and reception, they're going to be looking at faces, making faces with shapes. Their extra little challenge is, can they make their faces symmetrical? And that's going to be their mathematical piece of art activity. In year 1 and 2, the mathematical art activity is going to be all about concentric circles. So essentially drawing repeating circles within a square, and then you can repeat that as many times as you like. And this really lends itself nicely to sort of counting, like how many circles, how many squares, but then also you can go really deep and rich with this. How many circles per square? What if you were to do squares within a circle? There's lots of different shape work, maths work, counting work that you can do. The year 3 and 4 activity, that is actually from Maths on Toast. It's tessellation. So year 3 and 4 are going to create a tessellating art piece. Very simple. You get a square piece of paper, cut a bit out the bottom, put it at the top, cut a bit out the right, put it on the left, any sort of shape you want, and you can tessellate them together. And it's a sort of basis for tiles. I discovered through this process. And so the sort of how they make different sort of fancy shaped tiles. So if you're doing a kitchen or your bathroom in the near future, you know, a little bit of a background knowledge there for how they did that. Or I don't know, however these mathematicians came up with this sort of like tiling theory for how to make it all fit together. And then year 5 and 6, again, I put a link to Maths on Toast sort of PDF. It's called Curves of Pursuit, and it makes these really nice images. You just start with a 2D shape, lots of measuring involved, and essentially you go a centimetre in on each side, could be 2 centimetres, could be 3, and you draw the shape. at that diagonal, and then you do it again, you do it again, you do it again, you do it again, you do it again. And you get this lovely sort of curves of pursuit sort of type arts activity, and it's art piece, and lots of measuring, lots of options to do it with different 2D shapes. And so for each of these activities, I have made a sort of Google Slides with what you'll need, with a little bit more extra info about the activities. I'm sharing it out to all the staff across our trust. I've also shared it with Maths Week London so that anyone can really have a go at doing it. In the Google Slides, I put links to YouTube videos that I found that help sort of just explain what to do with the activities. And this is some examples of some tessellations that you can create. Let me just move that out of the way. And then the year 5 and 6 one, again, there's a YouTube video there to the different examples for curves of pursuit, what it looks like with different shapes. And we are going to have overall year group winners in each school, and then within our multi-academy trust, we're also going to have overall Leo winners. And that's just a way for having that competitive enjoyment within schools, but then also having this overall celebration of choosing not even just the best piece, but maybe the most imaginative, the child who put the most effort in each year group, and celebrating that across our whole trust as well. So those are my plans, and I will put the link to the PDF that I just shared with you in the chat. It also is linked to a really cringy assembly that I filmed, which honestly, I watch it back and I just go, oh, I hate the sound of my voice. I can't believe I sound like that. But nevertheless, I have shared it with you, and I'll just show you the first like 30 seconds. Hopefully you can hear that. Hello everyone, and welcome to Maths Week London. Oh, so cringe. But anyway, in this video, I do go over all of these activities for the children. I talk about sort of what each of them are going to do. I really sort of zhuzh it up. I put the triangle challenge in there as well. And then I am going to reveal, and here are my sort of answer slideshow. On the Friday assembly, I'm going to film this and send it out. We're going to sort of have a big reveal of how many triangles there are in each of those images there. So again, it's a sort of way that we've all worked on some maths together, where we're going to sort of celebrate it together. And next year, my cross-curricular plans are that I'm going to do geography themed. I'm going to link it all to maps, and there's some really nice stuff with the Mathematical Association that has some like how to get children engaged with maps and everything, and I thought that would link so well to the tube map, maps of London, directions between city landmarks. And then after that, I'm already thinking 2 years ahead. I thought history, let's do some history of mathematicians, let's get children involved with the history of mathematics and different historical mathematicians, and so on and so forth. You get the idea. My mind's obviously just exploding with it. So but that's what we have for this year. Feel free to sort of send me any questions. Oh, you couldn't see the video, you just heard it. It's probably for the best. It's just my face with some background, but you know, the link's in there. And that's it. So, you know, find me on Twitter or send me an email if you have any more questions about that, and I'll leave it there.
Absolutely fabulous, Natasha. Like, you constantly inspire me with your ideas for Maths Week London, and I love that you're already thinking 2 years ahead as well. You're making us super excited for what next year could be already. Lovely activities, and I know I've always shared them with my schools and with schools that I've worked with as well, and they've always found them so useful. And thank you so much for just freely sharing so many of your activities. It really shows the community of Maths Week London as well.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Also, I borrowed some from Maths on Toast, so thank you to them. But you know, full disclosure, I've got it from lots of different resources and just pulled them together. So thank you to you as well.
Can I just say a couple of things? One is, Natasha, if you're thinking ahead on history,
yeah.
what we found works very well is that because one of my trustees is Professor Alison Clark-Wilson from the Institute of Education at UCL, and her point is always, we never talk about the history of maths. You learn about the history of so many other things and who's discovered it, but nobody ever talks about the history of maths. And also, it is a global history, because we have a big thing, and I've been very clear on this, the Fibonacci sequence. It's called Fibonacci to all of us, but it wasn't made up by Fibonacci. It was developed further by him, and it was done at earlier times by mathematicians in India and in China. And so we often have a very European slant on who things are named after. But if you dig deeper, you will see where it's been developed globally. And that's a fantastic opportunity for tying in history, the global world, multicultural London, all in with maths. So yeah, I think you'll have fun with the history one.
Oh, I mean, I'm all over that. You'll have to, oh God, I might even bump up history from geography next year, but all to come. I'll definitely send you an email about that. But it sounds, I completely agree. Sounds fantastic. Maybe maths will have to wait. We'll see.
And can I just say, as I just popped in the chat, is please do use all our things, spread them out. But can you, if people could just get into the habit and spread the word, if you use anything else, just let us know, either a Twitter or an email, get in touch for a deeper conversation, partly because if we can prove what we're doing is widely used, it helps us get more funding so we can carry on doing what we do. And your school sound like you might love the Festival of Triangles actually, so do have a look and give me a call if you want to talk about it, because if your trust, it could go across it. But yes, please do take away anything of ours that you want.
Will do.
Amazing collaboration there, girls. And there's also on Wednesday and Friday, Parallel are doing 2 webinars about, which links into history a bit, about mathematicians who were from London. So that could be really useful to kind of watch to inspire you going forward as well, Natasha. We're definitely all thinking along those same lines at the moment. Right, up next, we have got John, who's going to be sharing with us some ideas about choosing the right operation. When you're ready, John.
Hi, thanks very much. Hi, everybody. Just going to share my screen. I think this is the right one. Thanks a lot, Sarah. Yes, I'm John Morrissey. I'm the maths lead here at St. Joseph's. I am a primary mastery specialist, so I spent 4 years working with the NCTM as part of their Maths Hub program. And I wanted to share with you some, what I think is a brilliantly kind of simple and powerful resource to help children answer this question. How do we choose the correct operation to solve a problem? I think we know that's what is challenging for a lot of children around problem solving. Very often, once you've identified the calculation, that itself is relatively straightforward, but it's identifying the operation to use the calculation, which is tricky. Now, this is it's a flow chart that I came across quite a few years ago, so it's not my idea. It's out there. I've used it a lot. I've shared it with the work groups I worked with when I was working as a primary mastery specialist, but I've never seen it kind of out there elsewhere. So you may well have come across it. It's not new at all, but I'm hoping it might be new and useful for some of you at least. I am going to be treating you a little bit like children at times in kind of teacher mode, so I apologize in advance. I'll be asking the children to think carefully, to think about what the operations mean, and to use their visualization skills. So I hope you do the same as I bring you on this journey. In the spirit of Maths Mastery, I'm not actually going to reveal the flowchart right now. What I do with the children, and if you are using this in your classrooms, I would encourage you to plan a series of lessons where the children explore in some depth the 4 operations, what they look like, what's the same, what's different about them, what connections they can make in order to really understand them deeply. Because of course, any calculation, any problem, essentially it's a relationship between the whole and parts. And all of the 4 operations, each one is a specific relationship between the whole and part. So if children can understand these relationships, then they can choose the correct operation to use. So yeah, I'd have the children doing lots and lots of activities, exploring the operations with manipulatives, maybe with animations like these, and identifying, what does multiplication look like? What does division look like? Addition, subtraction, and so on and so forth, making those connections, and then trying to articulate their thinking and their understanding using our key vocabulary, whole, parts. So in this situation, what are we looking at? Is it multiplication or division? And hopefully you've all identified that's what division looks like, or it's one way of representing it. And how do you know? And having discussions around that. And maybe some children hopefully will be able to say, well, you start with the whole and you're splitting it up into equal groups. So that's how I know it's division. And maybe they, of course, could be writing some number sentences to go along with this. Here's another one. So looking carefully, thinking about what's going on here. Is this multiplication or division? How do you know? And hopefully they can spot that this one is division again. And what about this? What's going on here? What are you thinking about? What are you wondering? And on this occasion, we were looking at an example of multiplication. Hope you identified that, because we're putting equal parts together to find the whole. And through lots and lots of expression of this kind, hopefully then children will be able to articulate the operations, what they mean, what's the same about them, what's different about them. And of course, using sentence stems like this here will help them. You'd hope that after some exploration, they'll be confident completing the blanks in the sentence. We use multiplication when we don't know the whole, and we have, I'm pausing on purpose of giving you thinking time, we have equal parts. And if that's what multiplication is, well, how would you describe division? Well, we can use division when we know the whole and we have equal parts. And of course, I was looking at multiplication, division there. You'd be doing lots of exploration of addition, subtraction, all four together probably. And then after some period of time, after a number of lessons, hopefully the children will be able to fill in the blanks in the flowchart themselves. So here is the flowchart, and we're missing two key questions. And I'm going to pause here again to give you thinking time. I wonder if you have any idea of what might go here. What's our first key question? Of course, we go in two different directions, no, yes. But by all means, if you want to write something in the chat, do so. And there's a second key question. It is the same question on both sides here, which leads us to identify the operation. I will reveal the first question is, do you have the whole? Do you know the whole? Is that given to you in the question? And of course, you could think about it as the total, everything, the biggest number. Do you have the whole? And the second question you're asking is, do you have equal parts? So let's go through. So if we know the whole, sorry, let's say we'll go this side. So we don't know the whole. Okay, so you're combining, and we don't have equal parts. So it's a no and a no. Well, that's addition. Addition is about putting unequal parts together in order to find the whole, isn't it? And if we don't know the whole, but it's equal parts, you're combining equal parts to find the whole, that must be multiplication. Let's go this side. So we do know the whole. So I'm splitting up the whole somehow. If I do know the whole and it's unequal parts, that's going to be subtraction. And finally, if we do know the whole and it is equal parts, then that's division. And then we can, of course, explore that through word problems of this kind. What I would do with the children, of course, modeling good problem solving practice, perhaps read it multiple times, and I'd ask them to visualize the situation in their head to understand, whether they know the whole or looking for the whole, etc., etc. So I'll read it out to you, and then we'll visualize it together, and we'll see if the flowchart can help us identify the calculation that we need. So cookies come in bags of 6. Marnie buys 16 bags of cookies. How many cookies does she buy? Okay, let's read that again, and this time I want you to visualize each stage. So cookies come in bags of 6. Can you all visualize that? What does that look like? Got that clear in your head? Okay, Marnie buys 16 bags of cookies. She buys 16 of those bags. So can you add that to the picture in your head? Can you visualize that? What does that look like? And then the question is, how many cookies does she buy? So can you add that to the picture? That's what we're trying to find out. How many cookies does she buy altogether? Okay, so let's go through then our flowchart. So do you have the whole? Are we given the whole here? Or are we trying to find the whole, biggest number? And the answer is no, we don't know the whole. We're looking for all of the cookies, isn't that right? So we don't know the whole. Next question is, do you have equal parts? And the answer is yeah, because it's always 6 cookies in a bag, isn't that right? So we know that we don't know the whole, we're looking for equal parts. Lo and behold, we're using multiplication. So the calculation we need to do is 6 multiplied by 16. which we can then work out. So, and I'm sure you can imagine how that would be applied to a whole range of different word problems. But it's not just for word problems. I found it extremely useful, with a range of different calculations, some of these kinds of ones, which can confuse children, of course, and they instinctively want to multiply because they see the multiplication sign. But if you go through the flowchart, then hopefully you can identify that that's not how you solve it at all. We've got some mystery number. We're making it 6 times bigger. We're timesing it by 6, and we end up with 48. So do we have the whole? Well, the answer is yes this time. 48 is the biggest number. You take a number, you make it 6 times bigger, you get 48. We have the whole. So we're down this side of the flowchart. Do we have equal parts? Well, yeah, because it's a mystery number repeated 6 times, isn't that right? Or it's something times by 6. So we're going to be dividing, it's going to be 48 divided by 6. And you can hopefully see how this is a very similar kind of situation. It applies well to algebra. And it can, of course, be used for 2-step problems. You just go through twice. So here, hopefully you can see that we have the whole, but it's not all equal parts straight away. Okay, we've got some equal parts, but not all equal parts. We're going to be subtracting first. It's not all equal parts. We have the whole. We take away the 4 from 52, and then we go through again. We have the whole still, and it would be equal parts. And in fact, you'd end up with 6y is equal to 48. So you can use it for 2-step problems as well. And I'm a huge fan of the bar model, huge fan. And of course, these would all be brilliantly well solved and understood through representing in a bar model. I'm not saying it's better or to replace it, but it's another tool, I guess, for children's mathematical and problem solving toolkit. And it is quicker than drawing a bar model if you can kind of quickly go through those 2 key questions in your head. So that's it. That's the problem solving flow chart. Again, I think it's like brilliantly simple, but brilliantly effective. Just 2 incredibly simple questions, which hopefully with just a little bit of careful thinking, you can answer confidently. Do we have the whole? And is it equal parts? So anyway, that's my little presentation. I hope it's been useful, and thanks a lot for joining in.
Thank you so much, John. I feel like this year I have spoke so much about the language of parts and wholes of all the schools that I've been working in, and lots about embedding bar models. I've never seen that chart before, but I think I'll definitely be using it regularly in my practice going forward. Thank you so much for sharing. Right, up next, we have the lovely Anne, who is going to be speaking about something that I'm definitely very interested in my current role, thinking about mixed attainment teaching in primary mathematics. When you're ready, Anne.
Hi everyone, I am having problems with the share. It said something about disabling my computer, so I'm going to have another go. Bear with me. Okay, are you able to confirm? Can you see my slides if I go to slideshow? Is that coming through?
Yeah, it's loaded now. Perfect.
Perfect. Okay, I've lost all visuals with you, but I'm trusting that you can hear and see. Yeah, my name's Anne. I recently graduated from the Open University with my Master's in Learning and Teaching, and was really excited when the Teach Meet came up with this opportunity to share a tiny snapshot of this Master's project. And really, I'm scouting, so please, I'd love you to unmute your microphones and chip in and share your thoughts, because I'm really starting to think about how do I take this theoretical practice and explore what Maths for Everyone could be. So the official title of my dissertation was Advancing Beyond Familiar Territory. Whether you're grouping by attainment or ability or not, where are you just now? And for those educators that are skeptical of attainment, mixed attainment grouping, where has that come from? So yes, I'd very much love it if you'd like to share your thoughts and share your ideas as we go through. This is my 25th year in teaching. I'm really excited to see where this research could go. And yeah, and I love Natasha's comment about everyone working towards the same goal across your Leo Academy. I think that's really admirable. That was really lovely to hear. So yes, so I start off with this idea from H.C. Dent, and he said that theoretical arguments carry little or no weight if they are set against long established and fondly cherished traditions. And as teachers and educators, I'm sure we can probably identify some of our own fondly cherished traditions that we hang on to dearly. But a recent piece of research flagged up that 62% of children aged between 3 years and 7 years, and I was quite struck by how young this grouping was happening, are routinely grouped for maths. And I'll share a link to my dissertation where you can find all the formal references. But I wanted to invite everybody here just for a moment to think about when you were taught maths at primary school or even secondary school and beyond. How were you grouped? And can you remember anything about those experiences? Would anybody like to share? I can't see hands up or anything, so just feel free to unmute and speak.
I definitely remember being grouped by ability and having the shapes that went all the way through primary, and definitely knowing from reception which group, we grouped them.
And did it matter to you then, or you never considered it, but looking back as an adult, you change your view of that?
I think I always knew that I wasn't in the top group, so it definitely had an impact on my maths. I think until GCSE, where I was more supported, but definitely, gave me some anxiety around maths.
Thank you so much for sharing. Would anybody else like to share?
I didn't experience grouping in primary schools. I'm Irish. Don't think it was a thing really growing up. I'm not sure if it's changed, but was in secondary school. And it mattered. I was aware of it. I was in the top stream. I've always loved maths and it's always been my favorite subject. I was in the top stream, but I was aware of that and felt proud of it. So I'm sure other people who weren't, there were 3 groups and you had to go to different classes. I'm sure you were aware of it, felt pretty lousy when you were in the bottom group. This is a topic that means very dear to me because I'm very, very anti-grouping for exactly the effect that it has on self-esteem and self-confidence in maths.
Thank you very much. Thanks for sharing. There's so much research out there recording children's views, children's impressions, children's experiences, but there does seem to be a bit of a gap about our experiences as the educators and our own experiences of grouping, and then how we are or are not using grouping in our teaching, and what are all the factors that are influencing or driving us to use grouping. Would anybody like to share what they do in their practice? What happens in the Leo Academy, in the Leo Trust, for example?
I have something to contribute. Oh, sorry.
Does that contribute to this discussion?
Yes, sorry. It was, can you hear me? Sorry.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, really cool.
It was the point that you had made is that all the research on maths anxiety, of course, it shows that it comes from parents and it comes also from teachers, and that it can be very much based on their own experience. And so if you've got that set of adults who have been grouped, who have done rote learning, they think that's how it should be. And my observation as a parent of secondary children now, but when they were in primary, the primary school didn't group, but came under a lot of pressure. Many parents saying, but why not? My child is in the top set. They won't learn unless they're in the top set and they're pushed. And there was a lot of debate. And I think this is a big thing that we're seeing is the parents, as I said when we started, their expectations are very rigid and are very based in their own mathematical upbringing, and that they're then a little bit confused and lost and think think that their children will be disadvantaged if it's not put into sets. And I think that's my observation from recent other primary parents. So hopefully that's useful for you to hear.
Yeah, that's really useful to hear, and I'll come back to the role of parents and something that I've been thinking about and trying out as well. But yes, that is another key driver in this area. And yeah, the lovely image down there is Paulo Freire and his thinking around what counts as valuable knowledge and who decides. Yeah, so I've thought really hard about this because I know that I came at one point before I started my master's, I was so angry, and I still do have quite a lot of that anger. But I used the master's as a vehicle for finding a more positive way through, and trying not to polarize, not to be polarized by parents, not to be polarized by politicians, not to be polarized by external forces, but to bring these people who come into education to do the very best for the young people in our care. How can we build a bridge between educators who strongly feel that grouping by ability, whatever you define that as, is wrong, and those who think it is the only way, particularly in mathematics, to teach, although it is creeping in phonics hugely as well. So really this dissertation and moving it into research projects, how do we build this bridge between people who want to do the very best for the young people, and particularly in maths? And so really, I'm already getting a sense that some people here, this is something that you might be interested in exploring. And I'll come back to how maybe we can keep in touch after the Teach Meet and after Maths Week London as well. But Foucault, another great philosopher when I was doing my master's, was about building a picture of truth when discourse allows, and really fostering this conversation and discussion with real people in real places, so that we can really think deeply about this idea of maths for everyone. So really, this presentation is about an invitation, about I've forgotten the initials. There's one of the London universities who's asking educators to pledge that they're going to think about their grouping practices, not with a view to one is right and one is wrong, but just think about it. And I love this, and I'm sure you, as all mathematicians, have come across Paul Lockhart's quote about there's such breathtaking depth and heartbreaking beauty in this ancient art form. And I think Maths on Toast, you mentioned this about the history of maths. How ironic that people dismiss mathematics as the antithesis of creativity. So again, Natasha, when you mentioned you focused all on art, how delightful. That we are missing out on an art form older than any book and more profound than any poem and more abstract than any abstract. And it's the school that's done this, and this is what is really breaking my heart after 25 years in the job, that it's a sad endless cycle of innocent teachers inflicting damage on innocent students, and we could all be having so much more fun. And I was really struck, I work in a London borough where setting in primary schools is very much the case, and was told at one interview that I would not find a school that does not set at primary level. And this was borne out when a child in year 6 was then, we'd managed to move away from setting, but then the SATs came and they were set, and he just yelled, I'm in the dumb group, and I can hear his voice echoing today. So anything that we can do as educators to come together and prevent that happening to even one student, that would be marvellous. My last part, you mentioned parents. As a part of this, I came across the Scottish Cafe, which is actually based in Lviv in Ukraine, which is quite pertinent. And it was a place where people came together to talk maths. And we took that as an inroad to start having our doing maths together. So we're aiming for every half term, we're having parents come in. Quite often we take a problem from the Enrich website, but I'm quite tempted to look at your Maths on Toast resources now as well, and work together and have parents come in. And we are completely mixed attainment, and the children work with the adults, and it's not always about the right answer or the solution, it's always about the process and how we're getting there. So I would very, very much love it if anybody is interested in either reading my dissertation or sitting down together and having a discussion about, oh, I might know a group of teachers that would be interested, and they can be pro mixed attainment or they can be anti mixed attainment, and looking about how we come together and start having this conversation about why do we group by ability, if you use that word, or attainment, and what has led us to this point, and then perhaps starting to unpick that. So I will talk and see how I can share my contact details, but thank you so much. And if there are any questions, do ask. And the goose is there. Sorry, I never explained the goose. In the Scottish Cafe, they awarded each other prizes for the most entertaining solution or the most imaginative solution or the correct solution. And quite often it was a live goose. And that's why the goose is there.
Amazing. Thank you. So I'm sure you've got lots of people on the call that I'd really be interested in collaborating. I know I'm really interested in hearing more about your research as well. If you have an email address or contact details that you'd like us to contact you on, please share it in the chat, and we can also send that out further to other people from Maths Week London if you'd like more people to get involved as well. Thank you so much. A really interesting discussion there. Right, our last speaker this afternoon. Gosh, this afternoon has gone really quickly. Lots of different fascinating ideas. We have got Sarah Ann, who is going to be sharing from Smash Maths. Sarah, when you're ready.
Can you hear me? Sorry, just bear with me. It's gone off my screen because I was offline.
What a beautiful peacock though.
Can you see me? Can you see the bus?
Yes, yeah, we can see it.
Yeah. It's not wanting to play though. Let me have a little look. I think it's just my internet being a bit slow. Oh, I think my internet connection's gone. There we go. Is that up, Sarah?
Perfect.
Thank you. So sorry to keep you. Thank you so much, Sarah. And thank you so much to everyone for all those lovely ideas this afternoon. It's been so wonderful to be part of the session. I'm Sarah Ann Fernandez. I'm an independent maths consultant for the last 15 years. I'm an author of lots of different maths publications. And most recently, I've set up Smash Maths with my business partner, Trevor Dixon. And I'm really excited to be doing a brief talk this afternoon on making learning stick. I wanted to start with this slide here. Very often, I have teachers tell me that they have taught a particular topic really well. Their children have done brilliantly in class, but then later they cannot remember a thing. And in fact, they seem to think they've never even heard of a fraction or a parallelogram or even a triangle. So teachers can feel quite in despair at all that hard work they've put in. And I can really resonate with that as a teacher of myself, but also as a parent with my own two boys. And I know that as teachers, we often want our children to do really well in the classroom, but also be able to apply those skills to their assessments, but also to those lovely cross-curricular projects that we've been talking about this afternoon. But in all honesty, I'm not hugely surprised that our children at such a young age can't really remember everything that we're teaching them. And I thought it would be really interesting to just take a look at how much learning actually takes place in Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2 for maths. So in Year 1, pupils have basically got to learn 22 national curriculum statutory objectives. And as we know, some of those objectives are rather broad and quite meaty. And when that's broken down using the White Rose schemes of learning into small steps, that's 101 small steps of learning. And then going into year 2, they have 36 statutory objectives and 129 small steps of learning. So by the end of Key Stage 1, between the ages of 5 and 7, they have learned 48 statutory objectives and 230 small steps of learning. And then moving into to Key Stage 2, it doesn't get much easier. In year 3, they're learning 33 statutory objectives, 113 small steps of learning. In year 4, it peaks. There's 42 statutory objectives, but again, those objectives are very broad with a lot of content within each of those bullet points, which breaks down into 140 steps of learning. 51 in year 5, which equates to 116 small steps, and 61 statutory objectives in year 6, which is equal to 107. So that's a whopping 187 statutory objectives across Key Stage 2 and 476 small steps of learning by the end of year 6. And as we know, Key Stage 2 SATs don't just assess the year 6 61 objectives, but they're asking children to really have knowledge, the vast majority of all those objectives across Key Stage 2, if they are to meet expected standard. So what I wanted to talk a little bit about today is how do we get children to really understand that content, but also retain that learning? Because in school, there's lots of really good teaching going on in classrooms through Maths Mastery, through the NCTM, I know through the hubs, but how do we make sure that all this great teaching that is happening in the classroom is retained and pupils make fundamentally really good progress in their maths? Well, there's lots of different ways. I know Lucy kicked off our session this afternoon with Maths Toast talking about those lovely practical ideas in maths. That's absolutely essential, in my belief, for getting children to really have good understanding of mathematics. Outdoor maths learning, I'm a massive fan of. Cross-curricular maths and real life experiences of maths is at the heart of what I really promote and believe in. But one of the things I wanted to talk to today as another strategy is using a spiral practice approach. And that's something that we at Smash Maths are specialists in, and we have designed a digital online maths platform which really promotes children using a spiral approach to their learning to retain what they have learned in the classroom. So as I'm sure many of you will know and will agree that most primary schools, not all, in the UK today teach using a topic by topic based approach. And hence pupils will not have the opportunity typically to revisit all those topics until much later in the year through an assessment or through a cross-curricular project. And this is understandable because, as we just looked at with those slides on the National Curriculum Objective, there is a huge amount of content to get through. So at Smash Maths, what our philosophy is that we want to expose pupils to questions covering all topics of the curriculum every week, so that learning retention is improved considerably over time. So what we mean by that is each week through our digital practices, we make sure that children do a question on number and place value. They will revisit the 4 operations. They will look again at what a fraction is, so there's no excuse of I've never seen a fraction before in my life. We revisit measurement, geometry, and statistics. And again, statistics is one of those things that can often be forgotten about, and children don't see enough data handling or line graphs or pictograms, etc., through their daily maths lessons. So each week we ensure that we cover every single content domain to really boost children's confidence and exposure to the entire curriculum. So previous learning is continuously being revisited and embedded. And through my role as a maths consultant, I've used this approach with great success over the years. I've used it with schools who have very vulnerable pupils who have got no confidence in maths, with schools where they are struggling to raise math standards. And I've always had great success with using this learning approach. It's not my idea. It's been backed by lots of scientific research. One example here is from the Ebbinghaus with the learning retention curves. Again, I'm sure this is something many of you have seen before. What Ebbinghaus shows here in this graph, that if you do not practice a skill, the learning retention will deteriorate over time. So in essence, you have to practice the skills you acquire in order to embed the learning that you have just gained. And that's what we're doing. We're trying to embed the learning that children have just learned. The benefits, pupils' confidence is, really improves because they are seeing those questions over and over again and getting better and more confident, and they're not so scared at approaching those two-step, multi-step problems because they're seeing them on a regular basis. It deepens their math understanding because, again, through that spaced repetition approach, they're seeing a question, maybe a non-context question on two-digit multiplication, but then they're coming back to it again later through a word problem. It's, like I said, really improves learning retention and overall improves maths results. So at SMASH, we achieve this by ensuring that we make sure our practices are aligned to White Rose. We never ask children to practice something or revisit it unless they have learnt it in school through the White Rose schemes of work. So we are basically embedding what they have done. We're not adaptive, and that draws a little bit on what Anne was just speaking about. So our belief is that all children should be given the opportunity to be accessing their year group learning. So rather than dumbing down or personalising or adapting the curriculum to meet their needs, we're giving them the opportunity to be exposed, to lift them up and see their year group expectations. And through my experience, that's had really great impact on children's confidence, but also with narrowing the gap. Children will catch up if they are exposed to their curriculum expectations. We provide high quality online practices without the distraction of maths games, but we really love to engage and motivate children through the use of GIFs. So children collect GIFs through our practices, which they love. And for every question, we give video feedback. So again, for those children who might be struggling, there is a video feedback that really demonstrates using methods such as the bar model of how to solve every question. So if you would love to try a spiral practice, then we'd absolutely love to hear from you. Our spiral practices are free to all schools, available for pupils in year 1 to year 6, for every pupil in your school. Just simply register on our website, and we're delighted to be running a Maths Week London competition where we have a special Maths London themed GIFs, where children are having to collect the Shard, Tower Bridge, London taxis, and if they get 6 or more GIFs correct, they will be automatically entered into our prize draw. And we've got a £25 Amazon voucher for each pupil, for one pupil in each year group. So we'd love to hear from you and hope to help and support as many pupils as possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And I think your slogan is such a great way to end our evening, the idea of everyone can smash maths. I think that's why we're all here and why we're all hoping to celebrate Maths Week London next week. You've definitely got lots of interest as well in the chat box as well. Lots of people I think will be in touch over the next couple of weeks to find out more. I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone this afternoon. I've been completely inspired, and I really hope that lots of you will be able to meet face to face next week at the City Hall event as well. Don't forget to share ideas as well on social media with Maths Week London and hashtag Maths Week London, so that we can all be inspired by each other. And I'm just going to hand over to Kirsty for our special prize draw before we end this evening.
Hi everyone, so I'm Kirsty, I work at Sundog and we organise Maths Week London. Just want to say a really big thank you as well for sharing your ideas today and for celebrating Maths Week London in your schools. It's been really great to hear everything that you're doing. Just want to say a big thanks to Sarah as well for hosting and taking the time out to do this. She's been great. And yeah, so everyone who's kind of made it to the end, we've entered into a prize draw. So I'm just going to do the kind of random generation now. Let me just share my screen. Can everyone see that okay? Yeah, great. So everyone's going to assign a number. We're just going to randomly do it, so it's there. And it's number 1. So Branka, you're the winner. So I'll be in touch with you after just to get in touch with you about sending you through your prize. But yeah, just lovely, really great to teach me. Thanks to everyone for contributing. It's been great.
And if anyone wants to share contact details for social media or email addresses, please feel free to share them in the chat box as well, so we can continue to collaborate.
Thank you.
Have a lovely Maths Week London next week as well.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much,
Bye.
everybody. Really useful, really interesting. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Really interesting. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you from me too.
Just thinking about like people getting details from the chat, but I think everyone was in the email earlier as well. So should be
I
able to
say
see
the chat as well, because I was thinking if we put this up on the website, we can always put a few contact details as like a blurb underneath it, couldn't we?
Yeah, perfect.
Loads of really interesting things there, like such a variety as well, which is really nice. And hopefully get like a few more people considering coming next week as well. I think obviously because there's 2 events as well, people are probably picking and choosing between the 2, aren't they?
Yeah, I do appreciate, like, you know, people enjoy their evening. So.
Definitely. But yeah, I'll definitely continue promoting over the weekend to see if we can get a few more people signing up. But thank you so much, Kirsty.
No, thank you. That's really good. Yeah.
Be in touch next week as well to hear how everything's going.
Right.
See you
Cool.
later. Have a good evening.
Bye.